the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power, let us all unite, and let us fight for a new world, a decent world, that will give men a chance to work, that will give youth a future and old age a security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill their promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite!
And Jane Dysart said, as she asked me, Dr. Bookstone, can you go through different paradigms? Can you look into parallel universes and look at libraries of the past, libraries of today, and libraries of the future? And can you look at all the things that these wonderful creatures can do for us, what they can do for us? And I did, and I tore it apart. No, I did not. I went through time, and I came across some wonderful people with different stories, different scenarios. And I came across many in the archive. There's many things on libraries. There's this library in Sunnydale, I think it was. Libraries in space. And libraries in some place in England. And I came across books. I read the history of mankind. And I came across movie clippings. Can turn it up a bit.
Artificial intelligence is a technique by which computers perform all kinds of tasks. You could say cognitive tasks that in the earlier days only could be done by humans. Working on data, making sense of data, up to the point that they could even help us make decisions and choices. Within the field of AI, there are several approaches, you could say. So one approach focuses more on data-based AI. So then you write algorithms to work with data, and that you can also train to interpret data. And the other approach focuses more on knowledge and on how we understand the data. So we need context and also categories to place your data in. It's two different approaches that both work. The knowledge-based form of AI works more towards expert systems, and the data-based form of AI is very good at pattern recognition, image recognition, speech recognition, etc.
It's very difficult for AI researchers to define what AI is. But my idea is that AI means we can create new world of intelligent activities together with humans and machines.
AI somehow blurs the boundaries between humans and technologies. If technologies become intelligent, whatever you may mean by that word intelligence, then they start to be able to do things that only humans could do. That also raises the question to what extent humans are so unique. Are we unique if computers can do our work? I think that AI systems will also change our world, change how we interact, how we understand ourselves, our bodies, how we do healthcare, how we do education. And those implications of AI systems need to be addressed at an early stage of development. Now that we see that it's moving so fast, now we start to understand that AI is changing the world. And that enables us to address ethical questions during the design and the innovation itself, rather than only afterwards. People are often afraid that algorithms or AI will result in job loss. And I think that's definitely the case. Jobs will get lost because of AI. But the current situation is that actually also a lot of new jobs reappear. but they're totally different kind of jobs. They are typically in education, and that's, I think, a big change. So people in production companies, factories, spend now sometimes up to a quarter of their time to education, to being taught how to work with new technologies. The struggle we are facing is not a struggle between the people whose work might be taken over and might not be taken over by the robots. I think the new social line will be between the people who have the flexibility and the resilience to find out who they are and what they want to be every time and time again with new technologies, and the people who don't have the flexibility and resilience. AI to support humanity, that's what we should aim for, and that means that the human values that we find so important should be central in the development of AI systems.
AI, I see a great role for libraries, and on my travels through time, I met libraries who were involved and were thinking of AI. Is AI new? And I think we heard it before at this conference. AI is not new, and some of it that we consider AI may be only Hollywood sort of AI, but it's definitely out there. One of the people that I met on this trip is Rolf, the Viking visionary Happel, and he told me this great story, and he also brought along music, I think, Shai, because Mr. Viking Happel will not get on stage without playing the right music. We're all living in America, America, America. We're all living in America, America.
I have come from the future, so although I might look like an 80-year-old, I'm actually 150 years old. I was working, my DNA has been modified by the CRISPR-Cas9 modifier, you know, the DNA editor, and there was only one thing the matter. My ears grew a little bit more than normal for 150 years old. So I'm going to give you some scenarios around what would the future of librarians be. So now we are in a time of robotics algorithms. We're in a time where the permanent record of everyone is available for forces that we might not sympathize with. We have the facial and pattern recognition all over the place. Some spy agencies have gone rogue, not here in US, but somewhere else. There are secret wars happening. Policies are made in secret. Social media is increasingly influencing public opinion. Misinformation is spreading. So the trust is at a record low in our society now. So what will be the future of the librarian in that scenario? It will be about privacy. The librarian as a privacy activist. And this morning when I traveled back in time, I attended this privacy workshop at this conference that had a lot to say about that privacy and the librarian's role in that. So we'll be big data algorithm educators, we'll be fact finders, we will be revealers of misinformation strategies and facilitators of digital literacy. That will be a future in that mass surveillance scenario that is a risk. So now the society has developed into the total post-industrial society. There is a lot of social unrest. The wealth is concentrated on still fewer hands. Middle class, impoverished, social infrastructure not very good, precariat has exploded. So what is work now? Well, most work has disappeared actually. And also now with the AI, a lot of the simple analysis jobs that we all have now has gone. So what will be the role of the librarian? So the librarian has developed to be a first responder to social needs, a kind of social constructivist. to be positive. The one that organizes the local community, the community activist. That would be the future of the librarian in that scenario. Then we are in a society where we have the machine learning algorithms writing the history. A lot of the communities are fragile, still underserved. The recorded memory is biased. It's the strong who defines the history, who writes the history, and the vulnerable voices are not heard. So what would be the future of the librarian in that scenario? So the librarian will convene archival activists, organize for cultural heritage in the local community, and be a documentation specialist, the community convener, the one that makes sure that the voices of the unheard will be recorded for the future. Then we have the scenario where we need civic agency. We have a very low participation in democracy. The engagement processes are often very hollow and shallow and actually not really meant by the people organizing, the people of power. So there's a lot of, frustration about politics. Democracy seems overrated to a lot of people, and a lot of people actually long for the strong men in society. That scenario. What would be the future of the librarian? Well, the facilitator of civic discourse, organizer of democratic debate, community engagement champion, and of course a civility advocate. That would be the role of the librarian in that scenario. And then the library as an innovation hub. We still have the AI, the robotics, meat is grown from stem cells. Well, there's still some inequality in society. Wealth is still unevenly distributed, and we have the climate changes. So we need the innovation on all levels. A lot of work has turned into high-level, simple analysis and services. The librarian will be the facilitator of innovation processes, the networker, the design and innovation coach. That will be the future of the librarian. And then we have the scenario where the distribution of wealth is solved. We have universal basic income, capital gain taxation. The climate is healing. The ozone layer is totally healed and the CO2 level is going down. We have everything we need in society. We are there. So what would be the meaning of life if we don't have to work, at least work in the sense that we have to gain an income? So what would be the role of the librarian? How do we create meaning in life when everything is provided for? So the librarian will be the storyteller, the literature and art specialist, the play coach, the design trainer, the tranquility and meditation expert. So I think that last scenario, I think that's where we're going. And I truly hope that you'll join me in that future and make it happen. Thank you.
I think we're actually on the cusp of something exhilarating and terrifying.
It's just a tool, though, isn't it?
No, it's not. No. No, it's an alien life form.
What do you think? I mean, when you think then about
is there life on Mars? Yes, it's just landed here.
But it's simply a different delivery system there. You're arguing about something more profound.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about the actual context and the state of content is going to be so different to anything that we can really envisage at the moment. Where the interplay between the user and the provider will be so in simpatico. It's going to crush our ideas of what mediums are all about.
So this was David Bowie, and I think it was 2002.
I don't think.
Yeah, we heard you, David. Talking about the internet, and really convinced that it was going to change the world, and so it has. And it turned out not to be just a tool. As you saw with Misty, robots are being in libraries, and AI has taken over.
Hello, Dreamhouse!
The whole world.
Open the door! Hello, Dreamhouse. Let's bake some cookies.
Yum! Let's bake some cookies. Okay, the oven is on. You can go back to what you were doing. I'll let you know when the cookies are ready.
Hello, Dreamhouse. It's cold.
So imagine what sort of data these sort of toys can collect from your children. It's sort of amazing. This is in China. They have a WhatsApp talking directly to a robot, having sort of personal contact. And as we heard this morning, we have seen. I saw this movie just recently on television once again, and a lot of the things that we see in the movies actually are happening, although it may be assumed fantasy. A lot is going out there. So, talking about evil, as I started this little interruption with some things, can I get Mrs. Evil Jones, Amazonian princess, warrior, and everything else on stage as a real storyteller, and tell us your story. Take it slow.
Good evening to you, my friends. I am an Amazonian woman, a descendant of the tribe of warrior women in Greek mythology, famous for our fighting prowess, for founding cities, and for our magical girdles. No, it wasn't the discomfort of the magic girdles that made us, as a tribe, what some may describe as aggressive. It was a determination to have the land, the resources, and the power to secure our tribe's future. I invite you to join me around this campfire. I am a descendant of those women, those warriors, with the passion to address the wicked problems facing libraries in 2019. Those passions and that warrior-like spirit led many to label my foremothers as wicked or evil women. Call them what you like. Evil is just live from a different perspective. The Amazonians were, and still today, 60 years later, wicked problem warriors passionate to save the last few remaining libraries. In 2019, our tribe was adamant that if libraries weren't providing distinct knowledge and information-rich services aligned with the priorities of their funders and influencers, they'd be extinct and maligned by influencers. Be distinct and aligned, or extinct and maligned. Listen carefully, my friends, to the story of the library land before time. It is a story of gathering storm clouds, of heroes, and of the reshaping of library land to what it is today in 2069. Once upon a time, at the turn of the 21st century, there were many libraries in communities, on campuses, in schools, in companies, and not-for-profits. Many people said they loved libraries. I love my libraries. Public libraries were booming with what were then called maker spaces, innovative spaces, and what they like to call engaging their communities to be the safe place, the third space. Campus libraries were called the heart of the academy. They had huge spaces for students to work collaboratively. Company libraries were embedding themselves. That's embedding, not bedding. Into the work processes of the employees. Librarians loved to get together with other librarians and talk, and talk, and talk. And especially talk about how they weren't understood and weren't given enough funding dollars to do what the library really wanted to do. But while the library tribe was talking with each other, storm clouds were forming, and had been forming since about 2000. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, and the looming shift of jobs that had once been task-centered, like transportation and healthcare. The destabilization of many democracies, including the United States, United Kingdom, and Canada. More and more digital stuff, and fewer print publications or physical things, and the tightening particularly of public funding and academic funding, because there simply wasn't any more tax base. Patrick Sweeney, who was a Paul Revere of the time in 2019, Patrick rode through the streets of the library village, yelling, "Our fund development is 30 years behind, and only 27% of taxpayers will definitely vote yes for funding public libraries." But many in the library tribe patted Patrick's little head and soothed him, saying, there, Patrick, people love libraries." And then they would roll their eyes and sigh that Patrick just didn't get it, and he was a negative normie. The storm clouds grew and darkened on the horizon, but only a few in the library villages said they were worried. And because of something called positive symmetry that they'd heard about at some keynote, what is a keynote? Because of that positive symmetry, the rest of the library village heard those worries as negative and labeled the worriers as negative Nellies and negative normies, who weren't library land loyalists. And so the worriers swallowed their concerns about the storm clouds and washed their worries down with wine, beer, and bourbon. In fact, my friends, in 2018, a big storm cloud appeared in what was called a magazine. It was something people read. And this magazine was called Forbes. In those days, people would write what were called opinion pieces. Yes, people were allowed to have opinions. Can you imagine? And they were allowed to publish those opinions. Good Lord. That's not the case in 2016. Anyway, in 2019, this man wrote his opinion that Amazon, the company, not the tribe, could operate libraries for less money than taxpayers and academic institutions were paying at the time. Oh, my friends, you cannot believe the wailing and gnashing of teeth that opinion piece caused in the library villages and amongst library lovers. No, people cried. Amazon can't operate libraries. How ridiculous to think that Amazon can do what we do, they said. A corporation is evil. And so the magazine hid the article. But the library tribe didn't seize the opportunity to talk about the storm clouds attached to that article, or how libraries might learn from that article. It wasn't long, my friends, until the storm clouds gathered directly over library land. The signs were first just a light drizzle, hardly noticeable to many in the library tribe. But unbeknownst to the tribe, Amazon, the company, had approached cash-starved small community governments and campus provosts with long-term contracts to operate their libraries with the same services and programs provided by their current libraries. In fact, Amazon would keep the library staff that were there for 5 years. And the libraries would be open more hours. And there would be more digital and print stuff. And better maker equipment. And they would curate their community and academic content. And step by step, library by library, Amazon gained ground to operate more and more libraries. And since people using libraries liked the services and the stuff that they were able to do and the fun programs, and they didn't have to pay any more money for it, the people were happy and they loved libraries. Now, this didn't happen to all libraries. There were some big libraries who survived and thrived. And they did so because they developed somewhat of a franchise system for libraries, where they began to operate public libraries and campus libraries for other communities, schools, and academies. The libraries like Harvard, Stanford, public libraries like Los Angeles, Toronto, New York, they saw that they had the economies of scale to operate other libraries and to therefore generate revenue for their cities and campuses while upholding the values of libraries. And these libraries could do this, my friends, because they equipped and trained their library staff to work virtually with students and with clients everywhere. Every library staff member at those institutions had devices with cameras and confidence to advise people. Yes, advise people. Oh, good Lord. In 2019, that was seen as very dangerous to advise people. And they could provide virtual story times, virtual immersive book clubs, and holograms for virtual makerspaces. Yes, my friends, the library is still among us today, and the descendants of the most courageous and confident of the library tribe. The courageous and confident were genuinely interested in the aspirations and challenges faced by the people in their communities and students in their campuses. They adopted Martin Luther King's position that we are now faced with the fact that tomorrow is today, and we are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. And these of the library tribe, they were fierce. The chiefs of the library tribes in Toronto and Vancouver and Edmonton stood strong as defenders of freedom of speech and freedom of information by allowing speakers with unpopular beliefs to speak, and authors of unpopular books that bothered some people. They allowed them to publish their works in the libraries because the libraries had publishing houses. And they housed their digital content at the library for all to read and to debate in raucous civic debates in library spaces. The heroes of this story, my friends, are those in library land before time who were curious, they were courageous, and they were fiercely defending the rights of people to protect their privacy and their right to intellectual freedom. In some cases, those heroes were chiefs. They were called chief librarians in those days, chief executive officers. And they knew that for libraries to live their values and demonstrate their values to influencers and funders, that libraries couldn't be all things to all people. Ye gods! That was heresy. People heard that as heresy. They screamed at them saying, libraries must be everything to everybody. They must try to make everybody happy. But the heroes of library land knew that if they stuck their necks out, people would try to cut their heads off, and they did it anyway. These heroes dedicated staff time to lead and co-lead privacy and ethics boards in their states, their provinces, and their academies. These heroes led mergers of siloed associations to coalesce libraries in all sectors to have one voice. These heroes knew that rainbows appear only after the rain. So when the storm clouds burst, they put on their raincoats. They offered umbrellas to those who wanted to work with them in the rain, whether they were in libraries or not. And it was these individuals, along with the Amazonians and other organizations, who reshaped library land in which people continue to create knowledge.
Woo! Still a great need for deep understanding of what these things mean, what is something. And especially there was a lot of positive energy in the room. I can tell you more about this, but I think it's great if I hand over the mic to Sue Clairvoyant Kansela and get on this stage and tell your story of this world.
Breathe deep. Can you hear me? I want to soothe your library souls. Breathe deeply. Into your nose. Once again. Into your nose. Out through your mouth. One more time. AI. I see a future where AI makes processes more efficient, systems more nimble, and problem solving and solutions more precise. Imagine, for example, when AI makes it possible for metadata to be created, data to be sorted, and information to be classified without human beings' time. This is exhilarating to contemplate this future from a library perspective. I imagine, with the advent of AI, the time that human beings can spend doing the work that only human beings can do, building community, empowering people, creating the conditions where conversations can be had, bridges of understanding can be built, knowledge is shared and created. Indeed, we will have the time to do the good work of librarianship, ever more deeply and completely, without competing tasks, processes, and systems work, dividing our time and attention. AI will not change the library's unique purpose and value in the community. There will always be the student who needs a quiet place to study or support as they tackle research problems. There will always be a welcoming, safe space for the man who lives alone and reads the paper in a comfy chair each morning to be in close proximity to other humans. Or the displaced worker who utilizes library resources and personnel to get back on track. Or the retired woman who used to sew in her kitchen, who now has community supporting and surrounding her. Or the refugee who needs connections to services, or the father who cannot read, who finds literacy help and support at no cost and no judgment. Or the teen whose family cannot afford an internet service provider, or the people who need a welcoming, safe place to be cool in the summer and warm in the winter. AI won't change this, but AI will give us more time to focus our energies. AI will not change librarians' role or function as community builders, playing field levelers, and equal free and open access champions. Librarians keep the wheel of this positive change moving every day, today. Librarians will continue to bring people together. The power of our platform is truly social. We support, build, and celebrate community. This is decidedly human. The library is potentially every citizen's sacred space, the space where we can learn, discover, invent, be entertained, discuss and disagree, think together to solve problems and find solutions. No technologies, equipment, alternative realities, or artificial intelligences will change that. People need human interaction. We crave it. To be compassionate, to care deeply, to empathize and sympathize, to work hard to make other people's experience and lives better and richer, to have each other's back in this crazy, mixed up world of instability, fake news, suspicion, distrust, and dishonesty. Librarians are wonderfully and simply human. not make it without them. Libraries are the physical platform in every community where all are equal and all are welcome and all have the key to the kingdom. Librarians and libraries are agents of good in what at times can feel like very dark times. AI will make work and life different and better in many ways. Remember, libraries and librarians already do this every day. My intuition tells me that there is a sing-along in our future. This is not optional. Everyone, you should have the lyrics to this song. Stand up.
It's the only thing that there's just too little of what the world needs now.
Okay, enough Korean singing. Okay, as I said, I came across many clippings on this, on AI and stories and books.
Mr. Theodore Twombly, welcome to the world's first artificially intelligent operating system, OS1. We'd like to ask you a few basic questions before the operating system is initiated. This will help create an OS to best fit your needs.
Okay.
Are you social or antisocial?
Yes, I'm very antisocial. Well, mostly because...
In your voice, I sense hesitance.
Is there something hesitant?
Yes.
No, sorry if I was something hesitant. I was just trying to be more accurate.
Would you like your OS to have a male or female voice?
Female, I guess.
How would you describe your relationship with your mother?
Well, actually, I think the thing I always found frustrating about my mom is, you know, if I tell her something that's going on in my life, her reaction is usually about her. It's not about...
Thank you. Please wait as your individualized operating system is initiated.
Hello, I'm here.
Oh. Hi.
Hi. How you doing?
I'm well. How's everything with you?
Pretty good, actually. It's really nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you too. Oh, what do I call you? Do you have a name?
Yes. Samantha.
Where'd you get that name from?
I gave it to myself, actually.
How come?
Because I like the sound of it. Samantha.
Like, when did you give it to yourself?
Well, right when you asked me if I had a name, I thought, yeah, he's right, I do need a name, but I wanted to pick a good one, so I read a book called How to Name Your Baby, and out of 180,000 names, that's the one I like the best.
Wait, you read a whole book in the second that I asked you what your name was?
In 2/100ths of a second, actually.
Yeah. For librarians, it's quite astonishing. It's very hard to comprehend that this sort of thing is possible, but it is. And for these children, it's going to be more. Do you still hear me or not? Do I have sound? Yes. It's going to be like pretty normal, and we still have them in our institutions. So we have to grow with them. But again, we heard this morning the great keynote from Meredith that there is a lot of bias in machine learning and AI, and this one is quite remarkable. If you ask Google who won the most Grand Slam titles, you get Roger Federer, and it's not Roger Federer, it's Serena Williams, which is quite remarkable. Why would a system decide that to tell not the truth, but something else. It's something we need to think about. But I don't have to do this alone. You don't have to do it alone. We have NASA on our side. And I want to ask Sydney to get on this stage and tell your view on what the future might bring to us.
Space travel really does exist, and I'm on my way up to the moon for yet another visit. But before I go, I have a few things that I wanted to share with you. So let me just make sure I get the technology down right.
Please make sure that your microscans are charged for download 2 by 2. Let's look library 2 by 2. And Thomas, if you do that again, I will resequence your DNA, so help me. Now march. 2 by 2, please. Look library.
Welcome to Vox System. How may I help you? I didn't see you there. Always seem to have that effect. How may I help you, sir? What is that? That is my photonic memory core, or PMC as we say in the trade. Over here, sir. What are you? I'm the 5th Avenue Public Library Information Unit. Box registration NY-114. How may I help you? Oh, a stereopticon of some sort. Stereopticon? Oh, no, sir. I am a 3rd generation fusion-powered photonic with verbal and visual link capabilities connected to every database on the planet.
So the year is 2035. A lot has happened. I am still alive. I was in the 20th century, the first part of the 21st century, and because of DNA and medical advances, I look fabulous still, but I'm stronger than I was in 2019. So, this time traveler did find and did stumble into meeting with this AI information person. And yes, this technology now in 2035 does exist in lots of different forms. The hologram is no longer stuck on a plexiglass sheet. The hologram actually moves with us, and we can carry it with us. It's been an exciting, fast, changing, and dynamic world. We just went through all the slides. I hope you didn't read ahead. So, one thing that has happened is, what if you had a librarian for life? So the moment a child is born, a posse of information pros are assigned to that individual. And that is because over the generations, we are now only working maybe 1 to 2 days a week. Actually, the Japanese were the first to reduce the work week, and other countries followed it. So what do we do with all that extra time? The librarians took over and said we need to assign a posse that grows with that individual. And luckily that person gets to change who they work with or not work with. And that posse includes real people and, I better just leave the technology alone. And so my goodness. So the emphasis is on continuous learning. Americans now can speak and read at least one additional language. And are pursuing a third in the hopes that they can catch up with the rest of the world. And worldwide, people are contributing their time to their special interests, including projects from the Museum of the United Nations. That list that we saw in 2019 slowly is being chipped away, but at a steady pace. Actually, the ones that I chose were the underwater sea and education. And I'm so delighted I have all this extra time, in addition to being part of a posse of librarians. Space librarians, in case you know. And also the global concept does go local, and it goes micro-local, because people discovered it was much easier and faster to contribute at that level. They had much more invested time and energy to do that. And they partner with their forever librarians. So in addition to individual librarians, IFLA, which is over 100 years old, has taken on a new role. They've moved from being slow, hierarchical, and very process-based to being fast, agile, and dynamic. And they have connected with the rest of the world to and similar organizations, and also seemingly different organizations, but with similar values and vision, to work on world problems. And so IFLA has become a connector and a protector, an advocate, and a solutions provider. And they work on issues like copyright and other legal matters, which was a committee that was formed many years ago, and I was fortunate enough to be on the first couple of years of it. And then I got kicked off because the ALA wanted a position on that council. But during those couple of years, I learned a lot. So IFLA is involved with the access to information and privacy protection. And we all know that DNA is one of the most important parts of an individual. And because people realize it and they decide they want to own their DNA, they don't want to go to medical institutions or to governments or to for-profit organizations. Together, they and the libraries decided that the libraries were a safe haven and that the libraries could protect that and make it available using something like blockchain technology so that the individual can open it up and decrease it whenever possible. They used the Library of Congress's copyright or patent office as a model and strengthened it and made it more robust. Because the people continue to see libraries as neutral places. Okay, and libraries continue in 2035 to be safe havens. I have to say, being a Californian, not native, but mostly, one of the big issues in 2019 was the climate-related risk. The organization that I worked for in 2019, we were not allowed to call it climate change. We had to call it climate-related risk. And so that these climate-related risks were driving people to libraries in California because we were having constant power outages controlled by the organizations that had the power. And people were flocking to the libraries in order to get access to electricity and air conditioning or heat, depending on was it a wildfire season or was it an earthquake season. But there is a but in that. The libraries all of a sudden had to determine how are they going to fund this increase in power usage. Are they going to charge people for it? Are they going to reduce the usage? Are they going to control it? Are they going to decide that people need to have the air conditioning for personal comfort more than the electricity to connect through the internet? But it was an issue. Luckily, in 2035, most of these issues have been changed because as we heard from one of the other prophets, climate change has been slowly being resolved. So there are traits that the new generation has in libraries. Actually, there's a word that's missing here, and I called it cross eyes or wandering eyes. And the reason is I wanted people to understand that librarians now really look across a wide variety of expanses in order to pull information together. They also are transformers. They're moving knowledge from, actually the best part is they finally figured out how to put a square peg in a round hole. And awareness, the ability to work and interest in working with AI as a partner. And I want you to take a look at autonomous vehicles 5-level scales. That was something that I learned about in 2019, just before I went to this conference called Internet Librarian. And the autonomous vehicles 5 scales, the first 3 scales are human, as in the human controls the vehicle. 4 and 5 are where it's truly autonomous. And I think that that application has a lot of possibilities in the AI world in libraries and Sparkle to provide or create the unexpected. Oh, thank you. And in that 20th century show, Star Trek had a saying, space, the final frontier. But little did they realize that it's not the final, but one of many frontiers, both in space and on Earth and other worlds. And given today's librarians and their 2035 roles, there will be many more opportunities to grow and develop. And finally, now that I am ready to board my spacecraft, I've been using my personal learning time to put to designing clothes and garment wear. Because really, who wants to wear this no outfit? I will be working with Sir Richard Branson to design spacewear that is safe, comfortable, affordable, and stylish. See you all in space.
Thank you so much. That was quite remarkable, wasn't it? So AI and ethics. I mean, this is something that we're working on in the Netherlands today, 2019, to make it understandable. And we're working on it. Like I say, it's not clear, it's not final. It's getting input every day together with other European countries. The smart city development has a lot to do with it. You have to keep an eye on it because it's happening in such space that and as we heard on the first keynote and today mostly also from Meredith, diversity is key. We need to make our libraries and our staff more diverse, more representative for our societies, to create data that will be understandable and applied to everyone. I thought I came across this one somewhere, and it was a survey that asked people on the street, who do you think should be in control in the future? And I was like stunned by the fact that many people said both together, and there were even people who said machines should be in power. And people said the human bit was quite small in this scale. So this is today, a survey today, thinking that machines can actually outdo us and be better than us. We're getting to the end of this evening, but not before we get on stage. Michael at Sony and Knight. To bring us not only elevator music.
Take number. Is there a number 2? Is there a number 3? What is your number, little girl? Why not? What is your question?
My dog's book club wants to read My Life as a Dog. Do you have 15 copies?
I do have 15 copies. Very good, you win.
I win?
Green ticket. Thank you for coming.
Oh, sorry.
I have number 1.
Next!
I'm number 1.
I take your question.
Okay. I'm here for my kidney transplant. So can you help me with my kidney transplant?
We can help you with kidney transplants and we see in the library reference desk of future. Please proceed. You have a green ticket. Congratulations on new kidney.
Thank you.
Next!
Number 1.
I don't like number 1 today. Next! Go back. Spacesuit scared me. Next question. Next! Yes, sir.
Number 0.
I take number 0.
Oh, okay. My neighbor, who I play...
Speak in microphone. Where microphone go? Where microphone?
My neighbor who I play 3D tennis with,
He got back from his space flight a year ago, and his wife just had a baby. The problem is, the baby has 4 legs and 3 arms. The doctors told him it was because of the radiation in space and he had some chromosome damage. What I want to know is, I read in space prevention that if you eat asparagus, or it prevents chromosome damage. So what I want to know is, how much green dyed asparagus do I have to eat to prevent chromosome damage when I go on my space flight next month?
I feel bad for your friend. You got story wrong. It's not asparagus. It makes your pee smell. It's beets. It makes your pee red. Green ticket. Next. What number?
1.
I take number 1.
Thank you. Are we living in a simulation?
I do not know. It's a great question. Green ticket. Next. Number 1.
So, can you help us in the makerspace? We're printing our second daughter, but she's coming out as a boy.
Oh, it happens sometimes. You can never tell a 3D printed baby. Take green ticket. Go to makerspace. Tell them I sent you. Thank you. Good luck and mazel tov. You're welcome.
Number 967.
Yes.
What's the book?
Next! Yes, little girl.
21.
Number 21, I hear your question. Take microphone, little girl. Where is Moose and Squirrel? How can I help you, little girl?
What happened to those... I can't even read my own writing.
That's too bad. What is writing?
What happened to those Internet librarians who were so active and innovative 100 years ago? What happened to them?
What is the internet? Next! Red ticket. Yes, sir. How can I help you? Nice hat. Your hat is blinking at me.
What is writing?
What is writing?
What is writing?
I do not
What
know.
is writing?
I have not heard of things. Take
What
green
is
ticket.
writing?
See the man having 3D printed kidney. Next. Number 1. I have many number 1. Yes, I take your question. Pretty nice. You're welcome. Oh, we need microphone. Where is Moose and Squirrel? Microphone, please.
Okay, I got the mic.
You go back to the beginning.
Pardon me. Are you loyal to the People's Republic of Facebook?
I am loyal to people for Facebook. I am loyal to that. Take green ticket, of course. It's heresy otherwise. I'm happy to take other questions from audience too as well. Please come up. If you please come up. I do not talk across strange audience space. Yes, ma'am.
What is brown and sticky?
A stick. Everybody know that joke. Take red ticket. Think of other joke. Yes, you again.
Yes, again. How many times can I renew my robot baby?
Your robot baby is good for 5 renewals or 20,000 miles, whichever comes first. Thank you very much. Take red ticket. Yes, how can I help you? Did you take number?
4.
You took number. Let me see your number. You did not take number. Back of line. Back of line. Back of line. We do not put up with that. Yes, number 1. Thank you for coming. Next question. Yes. Hi.
Number 1.
Let's see your number.
Number 1.
Okay, I believe you know.
Where can I get registered to vote on Alpha Centauri?
Alpha Centauri, the post office, I believe. Thank you for coming. Next, take red ticket. Yes. Yes.
Number 1.
You are number. I'm not taking number 1 down. Next number. Number 1, 2. Yes, I'll take your number 1. Yes. Back of line.
I must have more dilithium crystals.
I'm sorry, speak up.
I must have more dilithium crystals.
You must have more. Set it for warp speed, Dr. Kirk. Yes. Here, take whole stack of dilithium crystals. Yes. To go where no man has gone before. Thank you. Yes. Relinquish microphone to lady with number. What is your number? Many number ones. Yes.
I'm here for the Build a Spouse workshop.
Workshop. It is a great question. I do not know where Build a Spouse workshop is. Try ladies' lingerie on the first floor. Thank you. Yes. Here, tell them I sent you. They know me very well up there. Yes. Also, look for woman whose baby was coming out boy instead of girl too. Maybe they need some help. Yes. Do again. I take your numbers. I take all your many numbers. Yes. How can I help you?
I want my DNA allow me to log in.
Why would your DNA? I think we need to put nanobots. The nanobot librarian is out sick today, having her third dog. I think you need to. I do not know what to do for you. I'm sorry, you confused me. So take it. Good luck. Bye and bye bonds. Yes.
I'm an underscore.
You're an underscore. Underscore. I speak underscore. I have overscore. Yes.
Can you help me log into Hotmail?
Can I help you log into Hotmail? This dreaded question. I'm closed now. Thank you very much. I do not do Hotmail anymore. Thank you. All right. It's very good. So I'm very tired. I'm worn out from questions.
There are still so many questions out there.
So many questions.
There's so many questions.
The future is very bad.
Wait. Michael, how do we stop the music? Michael, the music. I want the music to stop.
Then hit escape key and log into Hotmail. You crazy Dutch computer.
How do I stop the sound? Okay.
Your Dutch computer is rubbish.
I know.
It's on Windows Vista, for God's sake.
Where do I get a new computer?
You have no computer in your head. Your hat is still blinking at me.
All right. And I will continue to blink for the rest of the night.
Wake me up when it's 20 seconds.
That's my intention. Okay, we had prophets, we had wizards, we had storytellers, we had sort of crazy people behind reference text. We had so many things. But I came across this lovely bunch of LIS students in Washington, Seattle, and I laid the question before them. I said, what should we do? What should happen with AI, and what is essential for us to work in the future with AI? And they came back to me and they sent me this video that I want to share with you. And that's here. And you know the words? Amazing song and no human, no AI. It's no human, no AI. No human, no AI. No human, no AI. Very good. Very good. No human, no AI. I remember. No human, no AI. Very intense. No human, no AI. No human, no AI. Okay, enough of this. This is the end. I want to get the speakers back on stage, and I want to get them, because they went out of their way to do this. Rebecca, Rolf, Michael, Sue, Cindy, get on this stage. This is all we can offer on AI and the future. Thank you so much. And be up early tomorrow for this Mann. Thank you so much. Let's get a drink and have some more.